everyone, and welcome to our first workshop of the new Alpha Female Plus season. We're really excited to be here and excited to have you, and we're starting with a topic that was voted up by all of you. We asked in our Alpha Female community on Facebook, what are the topics that you would like to learn more about? Video was one of them, so we're going to start with that. For those of you joining us today for the first time, these are workshops that we're going to continue doing. They are geared toward all of our community, our Alpha Female community and special. Hopefully, we have a lot of members from the Alpha Female Facebook group here with us today, and also a lot of our applicants or future applicants. We're really excited to have you, excited to be sharing this knowledge with you. Over the next few months, we're going to continue doing some of these workshops with topics of interest, with topics that are really important to you, that you want to learn about, that will enhance your careers, your lives, your businesses. So we're very pleased to start off this series today. So first and foremost, I would like to introduce a video to you, and we can come back on the other side.
It almost never happens where someone gives you money and says, okay, go do what you do.
I just wanted to tell stories.
We saw this grant posted with Sony.
Wow, that would be so cool if I won Sony Alpha Female.
I really thought it was this unattainable goal.
Me with Sony? Me? You know,
I did it. Hey, I'm a Sony Alpha Female.
Then Sony gives you the tools.
My mind started racing, how to push the project.
My project with the grant was Women of the West.
Wildlife in the Midwest.
My project was called Under the Weather.
I created an ebook featuring 10 of my mom's desserts recipe.
The Subtle Strength of Kings.
I came up with this idea that I didn't think anyone would go for.
And then it's going on the Sony platform.
There's always this little voice that comes in and it's like, uh-oh, are you really good enough?
It is life-changing.
It meant everything to me as an artist.
You matter, your art matters.
If Sony said you're pretty good, then you're pretty good.
The best thing about the Alpha Female program is that it's open to anyone.
Just type it out, hit submit.
We all have something that we're passionate about that just kind of burns in our soul.
What story could you tell that hasn't been told yet?
Really shoot from the heart.
I can't wait to see what you create.
You just have to go out and do it.
Okay, I hope you really enjoyed that. That's our our latest Alpha Female video. It shows our 12 winners from the last round of Alpha Female Plus. I hope you can see yourself among these winners if you are a photographer or videographer with a cool project who is going to apply or who has already applied. And I do wish you the best of luck. We're very excited to see everyone's applications every month. Some really extraordinary people, extraordinary projects being put forth, and we're the only hard job we have is selecting from all those wonderful proposals. So please continue to bring them in, continue to send them in, and we will continue to meet with you and do more of these workshops and more Q&A and so on and so forth. So today we're starting with Video 101 with none other than artisan of imagery, Miguel Quiles. He is one of the foremost experts in video. He has a very successful YouTube channel. He's also an amazing photographer, does extraordinary photography that once you see, you know it's exactly his. He also is an amazing educator. He does workshops all over the world. He does a lot of videos, including for the Alpha Universe channel. And we're really excited to be able to kick this off with him and have him share all his great knowledge about video. So welcome, Miguel.
Hey, thank you for having me, Michaela, and thank you for the kind words. It's so I don't know, it's always strange to hear people talk about me while I'm actually here. So thank you for that.
I forgot to say that you're one of the nicest people I know. So there.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you who are watching right now. Really excited to have the opportunity to introduce this topic today, which is Video 101. This is by popular request. Video has been something that, to some extent, begrudgingly, I have done over the last probably 20 years. I've literally shot video with cameras that were not appropriate for shooting video with, and just jerry-rigged it and made it happen. And now we have these amazing tools available to us where we could shoot high-quality video that rivals things that we see in movies and things that we see on TV. And it's just it's a beautiful time to be able to create this type of content. So today we're going to be talking about Video 101, and I'm going to pull up my presentation here. Okay, so Video 101, this is going to be a quick start guide to kind of introduce you all into this world of shooting video. And my goal is that by the end of this presentation that you're able to take your camera out, dial in the correct settings, sit in front of the camera and do whatever it is that you're going to do, right? Shoot whatever kind of video it is that you want to shoot, whether it's going to be you in front of the camera or whether you're shooting video of someone else. The first part of this presentation, which is going to go for around 15 minutes, I'm really going to kind of lay the foundation. We're going to go through a lot of terminology that is somewhat complex, but I'm going to try to make it as easy to understand as possible, because a lot of this stuff, you just need to be loosely familiar with it. It doesn't have to be one of those things that you're some kind of Harvard educated expert on it to get a good video. This is all going to be simple. I'm going to make it as simple as possible. We're going to have a break shortly after for you to ask your questions. So please, if you're wherever it is that you're watching this, leave a comment if you have any questions along the way, and I will make sure that I address them at that point. So let's get started. First thing that is really important to understand when it comes to shooting video is that there are different file formats and different resolutions. There is not a kind of like a one size fits all when it comes to shooting video. It's all a matter of where this video is going to live, right? So if you're shooting a video that's going to be primarily for social media, for Facebook or for Instagram, an Instagram story, a reel, TikTok, whatever, you want to make sure that you're shooting in the right format and in the right resolution, so that you're not having to do some kind of gymnastics in post-production to get the video to look good. So within your Sony cameras, you have a few different options when it comes to your file formats. You have XAVCS HD, and you have 4K. So that's going to be the two kind of like the higher end, the better quality formats that you're going to have in your Sony cameras. Some of these, for the majority of the Sony lineup, they give you 420 8-bit color, which again, very nerdy mumbo jumbo. All you need to know is that it's really good quality looking video. But on cameras like the A7 or the Alpha 7S III, you have the ability to shoot in a better, higher quality format. So you could actually shoot in 422 10-bit. And what that means is that when you go from 420 to 422, and when you go from 8-bit color to 10-bit color, you're basically able to represent more colors within your video, and you're able to represent the gradation from certain colors to other colors a little bit more smoothly. Is that, at the end of the day, really going to matter? Maybe not. I mean, if you're trying to make a movie for Netflix, then yeah, you want to make sure you're shooting in that highest quality with the best bit rate, with the best color space, or color sampling. But for the majority of your videos, you could shoot in HD or 4K and 8-bit 420, and your videos are going to look super crisp. Two other formats which are there, but to be quite honest with you, I don't use very often. You have AVC HD and you have MP4. And essentially these file formats are basically a bit of a compromise in terms of giving you decent quality, but making the file sizes much smaller. So for example, if you're going to shoot a video and you know it's primarily going to be played back on a cell phone or something like that, maybe you might want to shoot it in MP4 because the file size will be a lot smaller. It's a lot easier to transmit those files if you need to text it to somebody or whatever the case might be. But for the most part, for most of my professional videos that I post up on social media, I'm shooting XAVC HD or in 4K. Now, aspect ratios is something that's really important as well. Out of the box, when you turn on your camera in its default state, it is set to a 3:2 aspect ratio, which will look perfect. Like if you're seeing my window right now on this live stream, my camera right now is set to a 3:2 aspect ratio, and so it fills the entire frame. There's no little letter bars like you see in the movies, like you would in a 16:9 aspect ratio. So 3:2 is kind of out of the box. This is like the standard aspect ratio. But again, depending on where your video is going to go, you may want to choose a different aspect ratio. And we'll kind of go into the camera settings, and I'll show you how to adjust these things shortly, but I just want to introduce these concepts to you right now. 4:3 aspect ratio, if you are like me, I grew up in the 80s. We had tube TVs back then. So if y'all had a tube TV, let us know in the comments. But that was a 4:3 aspect ratio, so it's a little more kind of square looking. 16:9, we're all familiar with it. It's that widescreen look. 1:1 aspect ratio is square. So if you're going to post a video for Instagram, it is going to meet that that format if you adjust your aspect ratio in the camera to fit that format. Let's talk about frame rates. This is something very important, right? So the other things you should be kind of loosely familiar with. Most of the time, you're going to set your camera to either HD or 4K. None of the color and 8-bit and 10-bit, none of that really is going to matter for the majority of you, but this will. Okay, so you have the option when you're shooting video to shoot in a variety of different frame rates. 24p is kind of the standard. So 24 frames per second means that your video is made up of 24 individual pictures that when they're played in sequence, create a video. And it's 24 frames per second. That gives you what is known as the film look or the cinematic look. So if you've ever watched any movies ever, more likely than not, it's shot at 24 frames per second. Most cameras will give you the option to shoot in either 24 or 30p. They're both standard. 30p is more, and again, this is just my opinion, but it gives you this kind of digital video type of look. So it's really common for people to use 30p if they are, posting videos on YouTube. It gives you a little bit of a different look to your videos that's still perfectly acceptable. 60p, if you've ever watched the news or if you ever watch a sporting event, the way that the video moves looks very different. It doesn't have so much blur in the video, and that's partially because for every second there are 60 frames. So you're seeing a lot more detail as people are moving through the frame. So if you're curious to see how this looks, just watch, CNN or Fox News or whatever. And you'll see what 60 frames per second video looks like. It looks totally different than when you're watching a movie. I tend to use 60p when I'm actually wanting to shoot in slow motion. And we'll talk about this momentarily, but if you are editing a 24p video, you could actually shoot certain parts in 60p. And then when you drop that video into your program, whether you're using Final Cut, or if you're using Adobe Premiere or whatever, what is it? It's escaping me right now. Resolve. Whatever editing program it is that you're wanting to use, you could basically take that 60 frames per second clip, put it onto the 24 frame per second timeline, and it plays back in slow motion. So 60p, 120p, and 240p essentially are for most content creators like myself, we use them to basically show slow motion footage. So 24p is kind of the default for me whenever I'm shooting video. And then that's for talking head videos. So like what you're seeing right now, this is 24p. But if I want to show some kind of beautiful motion in slow motion, like somebody's walking, their hair is flowing that I don't have, but if I had hair and there's like wind blowing through my hair in slow-mo, like a stallion, you've seen those clips before. They're usually in 60p, 120p, and 240p. Let's talk about picture profiles. Picture profiles is something you have to set up in your camera. By default, it's set up to a standard picture profile, which basically, if you want to make sure that you have your colors where you don't have to mess up, hang tight here. Here we go. Boom. There we go. If you want to make sure that your picture basically doesn't require too much editing and post, you could just use a standard picture profile. It's set up by default when you turn on your camera. However, there are certain situations you may want to use a different picture profile to give you more flexibility when you're sitting in front of the computer. If you want to color your video in special ways, if you want to capture more detail, maybe you have a scene that has a lot of deep shadows and a lot of bright highlights. So for those types of situations, S-Log 2 and 3 is awesome. And I'll show you basically what that looks like when you use S-Log. But just know that if you have a scene that basically has very dark shadows and very bright highlights, if you're in a standard picture profile, it's going to look weird. You're going to see really deep shadows and really bright highlights, and it may not be the prettiest thing to look at. HLG basically allows you to shoot HDR video. HDR is becoming increasingly more popular. You're seeing TVs nowadays. I was at a retailer recently, and I saw like an HDR TV for like $500, which years ago would have cost you a lot more. I mean, it would have cost you significantly more money. And nowadays, you could actually get HDR TVs pretty inexpensively. And what's cool is that these Sony cameras actually give you the opportunity to shoot in HLG, which is an HDR format. And then cameras like the Alpha 7S III actually and the Alpha 1 give you a picture profile called S-Cinetone, which basically is color science that's inherited from one of Sony's big boy movie cameras. The ones that basically are being used to film the new Top Gun movie. The new avatars are being filmed with this camera. And essentially what they've done is basically take that color profile from this very high-end, like super expensive camera and put it into consumer cameras so that we can enjoy those benefits as well. To give you a visual representation of what the difference is between S-Log and standard, the clip on the left shows you what a video would look like if you're capturing it in S-Log. So you're going to notice that you're able to actually retain a lot of that detail that's in the shadows, as opposed to the standard picture profile on the right. It's more contrasty, it's darker. You'll notice on the pillars in the background that you can't see that white square because it's just so dark. Those are details that even if you brought it into post-production, it is very difficult to try to increase the shadows and lower the highlights without just totally crunching up your video. So for those scenarios, you would shoot in S-Log, but just know that you actually have to go into your programs, whether it's, again, Final Cut, Premiere, and you're going to have to do a little bit of work to basically get the video from looking like a flat kind of gray color to bringing those colors and those tones and that contrast back into the video. You could actually download what's called a LUT, and it's almost like for the photographers that are out there, if you've ever used a preset in Lightroom, it essentially is the same thing. You drop this LUT on the video, and all of a sudden everything just looks great. So that essentially brings us to our first break. So any questions as far as the technical stuff that we've covered? Let's get into that.
Informative, thank you. A couple of questions that came in. You talk about S-Log and shooting in S-Log. Can you speak a little bit more about why anyone who is interested in shooting video for the long term should shoot in S-Log?
Yeah, you know, S-Log is one of those kind of tools that you have in your bag. You're not always going to use it, although I do know a lot of content creators and people that shoot video who are very confident in post-production that literally shoot everything in S-Log. They come up with their own little presets or LUTs that basically give them this signature look to their video. And so the best way to be able to achieve that look consistently is by shooting an S-Log, because essentially what it's doing is it's kind of killing the contrast in your video so that you could see details in the highlights and see details in the shadows that otherwise you wouldn't be able to see. So as a prime example, this scene that you're seeing right now, this scene might not be one that you would need to use S-Log. However, if you would have seen this video maybe an hour and a half ago when the sun was going down and those windows behind me were just completely blown out, you wouldn't have seen the detail. Like all it was just like a glowing light from behind me. And if you wanted to balance that exposure, truly the only way you'd be able to try to get close to doing that is by shooting an S-Log. So you're not going to use it all the time, but for scenarios, and you'll know when you're in them, you'll know when you're shooting a scene and it's like, wow, you're looking at your video on your monitor and you're like, wow, the darks are really dark and the brights are really bright. And no matter how you adjust your exposure, you're either going to blow out the highlights or you're going to underexpose the shadows. Or if you bring up your shadows, you're way blowing out your highlights. So S-Log allows you to be able to strike that balance to where you can capture the details in both.
Excellent explanation. Thank you. Now, you also mentioned LUTs. And before I ask you the question, I should mention that we have an entire library of LUTs on sonyscine.com that people can download. So that
I saw it last night.
Yeah, that makes life a lot easier. We have a fresh set of Technicolor LUTs actually that we published just a short while ago. So speaking of LUTs, what do you recommend to someone who has never used a LUT and is kind of afraid of taking this extra step? You just talked about S-Log. Someone who says, I just want to shoot video. Do you have sort of a recommended first step for someone who wants to just shoot video, like the JPEG of video? What is that?
Yeah. So you got a couple of options, depending on which camera it is that you're using. For any camera that you're using, any Sony camera that you're using, you would be able to just shoot in the standard picture profile, and it's going to look great. It's going to look beautiful. There's, again, going to be some scenes where maybe you might have to blow out the highlights, or you might have to, kind of play with your exposure a little bit, but the standard picture profile looks fine. If you're shooting with an Alpha 1 or an Alpha 7S3, I personally shoot most of my videos in S-Cinetone, which is PP11. We'll do that here momentarily, but you could shoot in S-Cinetone, and that actually looks pretty good out of the camera as well. It does require a little bit of color correction, but honestly, there's times where I shoot videos in S-Cinetone and I don't even do anything to the video. Like it looks good enough and I post it. But like most things, like most creatives, you shoot something and you're like, I could make this look a little bit better. And it doesn't take very much. These programs are, especially in the Adobe universe, I'm a PC user and I use Adobe Premiere. When you go into the color tab, the sliders look just like Lightroom. So you have your exposure, your tint, all the same sliders that you would in Lightroom.
Yeah, and specifically for S-Cinetone, we actually have that in several cameras now in the Sony Alpha line. So you can use multiple cameras and achieve the same look, which I know is something that's important for a lot of people. Okay, final question for this section, Miguel. I think you did mention this, but I'm just going to ask it since it was asked again. You mentioned about 60p. Is there an aspect ratio you shoot in if you're not sure of the final use? One that you recommend for flexibility, and then 60p, 24p, what do you shoot in?
Yes, that's a great question. So I tend to shoot at the default, which is 3:2 aspect ratio, because you're able to capture more detail or more of the recording area of the sensor. Then when you get to post-production, if you want to cut parts of it out, you could do that. I also shoot in 4K, even though most of my videos are going to end up going online in HD. What I end up doing is I shoot in 4K, and then in post-production, in Premiere or within Final Cut, you can actually recrop your photo. So you can make one angle look like multiple different angles by shooting it in 4K. What was the other half of that question? What was the last half of that? Oh, the 60p. So I'm shooting in really one of two formats. The majority of my video, which is what I would call the talking head or the presentation part of the video, I'm shooting in 24p, like 99.9% of the time. However, if let's say I'm doing a behind the scenes video, right? And I'm in front of the camera and I'm telling you guys, hey, so today I'm here at my studio. I'm shooting with the Alpha 7R4 with a 135G master. All of that is 24p, right? But then when it goes to me actually doing the photo shoot, I will shoot in 60p, because then what I do is you'll see me talking in this normal, just like you're seeing me right now, this same speed. But then what I do is I'll take those clips that I shot in 60p and I use them as slow motion footage. So while I'm moving around, like if I'm grabbing this microphone, it's in slow motion, you know, or if I'm taking the camera and putting it up to my face, it's like, you know, it just makes everything look so much more interesting and so much more epic. So 60p is generally what I'm doing, primarily to shoot slow motion. So you shoot in 24p for those parts of the video where you're talking or you're explaining or you want stuff to move in real time. But for any scenes that are in slow motion that you want to make the presentation look kind of more dynamic, you could shoot in 60p, 120p, 240p. I tend not to shoot people at 120 or 240p because it's too slow. So like if a person is blinking, it's like it just doesn't look good. So at least to me. So 24p and 60p.
Oh, and it depends on what you're trying to achieve, right? Maybe it's just someone with really beautiful
Exactly.
eyes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you know, if it's like a race car, if it's a new Fast and the Furious movie and you're drifting, you know, maybe you might want to shoot it in 240p and get that super slow-mo of the car. You know, it's a thing. It depends on what you're shooting.
So I just want to remind people, if you're watching on Alpha Universe, you can just enter your question right there. If you're watching on YouTube, you can enter your question in the comments in YouTube. Feel free, take advantage of the fact that we have Miguel and ask your questions. We're monitoring, so we're going to be able to ask Miguel everything. So let's go to the next section, Miguel.
Cool. All right. So let's talk about actually preparing your camera to shoot video. I'm actually using the Alpha 7S III for this demo, and this is going to be really cool. Hopefully this is going to work exactly the way I want it to. As you can see, I've spared no expense, and I have this fantastic model. His name is Ryu from Street Fighter 2, or from the Street Fighter universe. He is a fighter who has come a long way to model for all of us. So big thanks to Mr. Ryu here for modeling for us. So you guys are seeing the inside of my viewfinder. So you're seeing exactly what I would be seeing if I'm shooting a video. And what I want to do is I want to kind of show you within the menu how I would set up the camera to shoot an interview of this individual who, you know, has some interesting things to say. So first and foremost, we'll talk about the file format. So I'm going to press the menu button. And if you have your Sony cameras, you can kind of follow along. Obviously, with the Alpha 7S III, we have the new menus. So, you know, it might not look exactly like what you're seeing here. However, it's going to be in the menus and it's going to be represented pretty much with the same terminology. So even though it might not be in the same spot, you know, file format, it's still going to be file format within the menus. So we'll go into file format here first. And you're going to see that you have a multitude of options. So, of course, on the Alpha 7S III, we have a lot more options than usual. We've got XAVC HS 4K, XAVC S 4K. So these are our two 4K versions. Your HS version is going to give you much better color. However, the file sizes are going to be a lot bigger. So if you're shooting a video for like Netflix or, you know what I mean, like some kind of really fancy production, and you have the money and the storage and the computer horsepower to, you know, deal with this footage, then, you know, XAVC HS 4K is going to give you some pretty good looking video. XAVC S 4K is going to give you a nice video quality as well. HD, of course, is going to give you your HD video. And then you have your all intra modes, and these are actually going to be your super quality video formats here. And as you can see, we'll go back into this. So when I selected this XAVCS-I 4K, it says to perform shooting with this setting, use a memory card higher than SDXCV90, and I'm willing to bet right now I don't have. Yeah, so so you got to make sure if you're using those higher quality formats that you have a memory card that actually allows you to be able to shoot in those higher quality formats. So there is a video that I made that's on the Alpha Universe channel where I talk about the memory cards. That in and of itself, I think that video was like a 17 or 18-minute video. So I would have covered it in this presentation, but unfortunately, due to time constraints and everything that we have to talk about, I literally couldn't cover it all if I wanted to. But the video is on Alpha Universe. So if you go to the YouTube channel, which some of you are watching on it right now, just take a look at that video. And I go into like extreme details basically on the different memory cards and which ones you would need to use these different video formats. So for all intents and purposes right now, I'm just going to use this XAVC-HS. Corresponding is required to playback movies recorded in XAVC-HS 422 10-bit. So just know that, again, with some of these higher quality formats, you are going to need certain programs to be able to open them and to edit them because they are very highly specialized and really high-end files. So file format is going to be the first thing. The next thing that I usually go into is the movie settings. Here is where you're going to set your frame rate. So we were talking about these. So you could shoot in 24p, 60p, and 120p. Again, 99% of the time, if I'm shooting some sort of explanatory type of video, I'm going to be using the 24p. And the record setting. So when you choose 24p, you have a few different record settings that you can use. So for example, we'll start at the bottom here, 30 megabits, 420, 10-bit. This is going to be basically the speed and the size of your files are going to adjust a little bit as you kind of go up the line here. Generally speaking, for me, to keep things really nice and really simple, because I'm the type of guy, like if a camera gives me really high quality and I have the storage, I'm going to shoot at whatever the highest quality is, because I don't want to kick myself later on that I shot it at a low bit rate. And then I'm like, oh, you know, the scene has a lot of there's a lot of color, and you start to see banding because you didn't capture enough detail to be able to represent that transition from one color to the next. So to me, if you're asking my opinion out there, I'm going to tell you 100 megabits, 422, 10-bit. If your camera, if you have the Alpha 7S3 or the Alpha 1, you'll see these settings. If you have some other camera, perhaps you might see 60, it'll say 60M, 420, 8-bit. Whatever the highest whatever the highest record setting is that's in the menu, I would generally recommend using those settings because it's going to give you the best quality. But again, it all depends on a variety of different situations. You know, if you're shooting all day long and you only got one memory card, you should probably buy another. But you know, if for whatever reason that isn't an option for you, then you could adjust your record settings from there. Let's go back into the menu. So there's another thing as well, which is the picture profiles that we were talking about earlier. So in the function, if you push the function button on the back of these cameras, oftentimes you will see within that quick menu, you'll see the picture profile option. And if not, you could actually just go into the menu, which I'll do it that way as well. You go into your menu, go to color and tone, and go to picture profile. It's going to take you to the exact same screen. And so by default, picture profile is turned off. Okay, so as I was telling you all earlier, if you don't want to do any type of color grading or anything like that in post-production, just do PP off, picture profile off, and you'll be good. And as you go through these different picture profiles, I don't know if you will notice this, but you'll see that as I'm changing from one to the next, that you're seeing a little bit of a change in the exposure, right? So I have him up against a black background for a very specific reason, because you'll notice that if I have the picture profile turned off, you can't really see that separation between the black table that he's on with the lights and then the black background. But you notice as I switch from one picture profile to the next, like picture profile 3, you could actually see that the black table and the black background actually has, it's like 2 different types of black. So you could actually see the difference between the 2. As you go to picture profile 4, 5, it's even more. And if you arrow over on these, you could see what the gamma profiles are. So this is Cine 1. All of these things, again, this would make for a much longer presentation. The picture profile side of things, we could talk for an hour and a half on what these differences are. What I am going to say about these is that if you're just shooting a video, you don't want to mess around with the color, shoot with picture profile off. Or if you have a camera that has S-Cinetone, usually that is picture profile 11. And you notice that even with picture profile 11, we see that difference between the black table and the black background. So we do get a little bit of a bump in what is called dynamic range, where you can make out those differences in those dark values. So for all intents and purposes, I'm either shooting picture profile 11 or picture profile off. But what I want you to notice is if you look at the character, look at his red headband, picture profile off, that red headband looks red, right? But if you go to picture profile 11 to S-Cinetone, it's still red, but it's kind of like I don't know, like a softer, more muted type of color. So this is where I'm saying that with S-Cinetone, when you're shooting in that picture profile, 9 times out of 10 it looks great and the colors look really good, but it just depends on what you're shooting. This would be one where maybe if I shot this, I would go into Premiere and I would play with the colors a little bit to make it look a little bit more like this. But again, I have that dynamic range and I have the ability to do that if I shoot this in S-Cinetone. But to keep things real simple, we're going to keep it on picture profile off. But just know that that's essentially how that would work. And then the other thing that I see people really kind of struggle with when they first try to shoot video with these cameras is that they'll go into the movie mode on their camera and then they can't set their aperture and their shutter speed and their ISO values independently. And that is because you have to change your exposure mode. So your exposure mode, it's just like when you're taking photos. You have program, P for pro mode, right? So you got P, you've got your aperture priority mode, your shutter priority mode, and then of course manual exposure. You could choose to use whichever mode it is that you want. Okay, I'm one of these people. I'm not going to give you hard and fast rules. I'm just going to say for me, I shoot everything in manual exposure. So that I have full control over my aperture, my shutter speed, and my ISO. I don't want the camera to make any adjustments that I'm not cool with. So I'm controlling all of that manually. So right now you can see I'm at f2.0, 1/50th of a second, and ISO 100. And I could actually, if I adjust my settings here and go to f1.4, you can see that we get quite a bit brighter. That still looks, I mean, if I was shooting this video, this would probably be you know, where I would be. And actually the video, this talking head clip that you're seeing right now, this is shot at f1.4 as well on a 24mm lens. So again, the exposure mode is something that you're going to want to set up. If you're trying to adjust your aperture and your shutter speed and all those different settings and it's not working, then that's why. Because if you're here, for example, in shutter priority, the only value that you could actually adjust is your shutter. And then you'll notice, for example, I'm in shutter priority. You notice the f1.4 is blinking. And so that right there is telling you that the camera meter, basically because there's all this black within this scene, it's not showing the exposure properly, right? So the light meter is basically saying I'm plus, what is it, 7. I have a thing on my screen here that's basically blocking that part, but yeah, so you can make these adjustments to basically get your exposure looking right. But the way that you're able to do that is because you're in shutter priority mode, for example, I actually have to use my exposure compensation to adjust my settings. So I have to tell the camera, for example, like I'm on -2 on my, let me show you guys this on the screen. So what I'm talking about is this little dial right here. So if I go to -2, for example, that is going to automatically adjust the aperture, right? And so you could probably guess right away why this mode is not what I would recommend, because, you know, for example, you don't want to have to kind of toggle that to balance your exposure all the time. So again, what I would recommend is to basically just take your camera, go into exposure mode, shoot manual exposure, and then from there, you could actually just use the dials, just like when you're taking photos. You could adjust your shutter speed, your aperture. You could see the exposure within your viewfinder and basically just get it looking good, and just kind of go from there. So, questions?
Okay, thank you, Miguel. I do have several questions that have to do with hardware, so I'm going to save those for 2 sections from now because we are going to talk about hardware. So hang tight, everyone who's asked them. We're still going to answer them. Besides resolution and frame rates, what camera settings do you suggest for a new video shooter? And you've just gone through a bunch of them, but if you were to sort of summarize the settings, what would you tell a new video shooter?
So that's a really good question, and funny enough, that's the next segment. So we're gonna deep dive into exactly, like, I'm gonna show you as if I was shooting a video right now. I'm gonna show you exactly how you would set up your settings to make your video look great. So hang tight. I'm going into detail.
Perfect. So talking about picture profiles, you did say either picture profile off or S-Cinetone picture profile 11. Is there another situation which someone might want to use any of the other picture profiles, and how would they choose that?
Yes, absolutely. So as we were saying earlier, if you are in a scenario where you have really bright highlights and really deep shadows, you may want to use, for example, S-Log3, which is picture profile 9. And so I like using S-Log3, and this has S-Gamut 3 Cine for the color mode. For me, this picture profile gives you a lot of dynamic range. So you can see straight away, first thing you're going to notice when you shoot an S-Log is that the color looks really dull, and that's totally normal. And again, that's because when you go into post-production, that's when you actually start to kind of bring out the details. You boost the contrast, you increase the saturation of colors. This is almost like when you're shooting a raw photograph, how it's like, you know, kind of doesn't look the best that it's going to look. And then you go into Capture One or you go into Lightroom and you start kind of playing with the settings to get the file to look better. S-Log is going to be just like that. So for those scenarios where you want to do like some really cool, really interesting type of color grading, just like you would with a photograph, then S-Log3 or S-Log2 is going to be the way to go. Each one has its own kind of requirements for how you would expose the video properly. Generally speaking, you're going to be overexposing your videos when you shoot in S-Log3 because a lot of the detail is retained within the shadows. But you want to make sure that you're not blowing out the highlights because it's really difficult to recover the highlights when you're shooting in S-Log. Like you can recover the highlights, but if you go way out and just like you go by like 3 or 4 stops overexposed, it's really hard to bring that detail back without it kind of looking off. The other thing too is you're going to notice that if you're shooting an S-Log, your base ISO is going to change as well. So you're going to notice now that if I'm in S-Log3 and I want to adjust my ISO, really the ISO values for S-Log3 on this Alpha 7S3 start at 640. you notice that there's a line over and above the these ISO values, and these are kind of like extended ISOs. And you notice that ISO 125, 100, 80, none of these are available in S-Log3. So, and that changes with each picture profile that you choose. So for example, if I go to S-Log2 and select that, and then I go to my ISO, still 640. If I go to S-Cinetone, you see I can go all the way down to ISO 100. So each picture profile is going to give you a whole different set of parameters that you can use to basically shoot the video. And it's all going to be a matter of like what scene it is that you're recording, and do you want to color grade it later or not. If you don't want to mess with it in post, just shoot PP1 or PP off.
Okay, all right, excellent advice. Now let's go to the next section so we can tell everyone about the specific settings they can use.
Yes, yes. So let's talk about that. So let's say you are shooting your very first video. Again, we've talked about the file format. You definitely want to make sure that you're making the choice of whether you want to shoot in HD or in 4K. Again, my recommendation is going to be, if you can, if you have the storage, shoot your videos in 4K because it will save your butt. There's been many times where I'll shoot talking head videos like this in 4K. And then maybe as I'm talking or I'm explaining something, maybe I sneeze, maybe I have a hiccup, you know, maybe somebody starts walking through the background randomly and I want to kind of cut that out in the edit. What a lot of people will do is what's called a jump cut, where they literally will just like cut the part out where something crazy is happening, where they mess up whatever it is that they're saying, they hiccup, they whatever, somebody's making funny faces in the background. They just cut that out. And then what they'll end up doing is they will just pick up from where the video actually starts to, you know, where it gets rid of whatever that distraction was. The problem with that is that it's really jarring for people when you're watching a video. And if you watch YouTube videos, you see this all the time, where someone's talking and then all of a sudden their hands are here and they're talking something different. It's a really jarring thing, a jarring experience for people to see. But if you're shooting it in 4K, what's awesome is that I could actually have, for example, this wide view that you're seeing right now. And then because I'm shooting in 4K, but I'm actually delivering an HD, I have more data than what I actually need to have an HD video. So what I could do is I can crop and recompose my video. So instead of cutting it back to the same framing, I could actually cut it to where maybe all of a sudden I'm sitting off to the side, right? And I could still fill the entirety of the frame in full HD because I shot it in 4K. So I can literally recompose the video to where I'm sitting on this side. I could have it to where I'm like really close up talking to the camera. So it's almost like you have all of these different camera angles all within that one 4K video file. So 99% of the time these days I'm shooting in 4K, even if I'm delivering it in HD. Sometimes I'm doing that where I'm playing around with the edit, but you know, most of the time I'm just kind of leaving that as is. Your aspect ratio, again, is something that you want to make sure that you set up. I will show you guys here within the camera menu. I actually have it set up here in my custom menu, and I have it set to 1:1. This is very important because you notice right now it's set to 1:1, and if I actually wanted to shoot a YouTube video, I would be crying because I don't want to shoot in 1:1 aspect ratio. So I recommend shooting in a 3:2 aspect ratio unless your project requires something else. So again, if you're shooting for Instagram, go 1:1. Then you're just going to have that little square box. If you're shooting 4:3 for some old, you know, tube TV or something like that, that's fine too. If you want to get that movie 16:9 look, you totally can do that as well. So aspect ratio is going to be important. Your frame rate, again, we've kind of talked about this ad nauseum, but for talking videos like what you're seeing right now, if this was a YouTube video where I was talking about video, this is 24 frames per second is what you're watching right now. The key thing here is that when you're shooting in any of these frame rates, which let me pull up my camera here. I want to show you guys this because this is ultra important. So when you're shooting in your frame rates here, you see I have 24p, 60p, and 120p. You want to make sure that whatever your frame rate is, that your shutter speed is double that frame rate. And there's a specific reason for that. So if I'm shooting in 24p, you're going to notice if you double 24p, that's 48. Unfortunately, most cameras don't have 1/48 for a shutter speed. So you notice my shutter speed is set to 1/50 because it's the next closest. Now, if you were shooting at 30p, then that's really easy because you just set your shutter speed to 1/60 and you're good. If you're shooting at 120p, then your shutter speed needs to be at least 1/240, which is actually going to be 1/250, so on and so forth. Whatever your frame rate is that you select here, you want to make sure that your shutter speed is set to double whatever that number is, and it does not change. So it's something that is very different for people that are coming from photo because we use our shutter speed to actually control the exposure. But with video, it is different. It's totally different. With video, we control our exposure with our aperture, which I'll talk about in a second. And you control your exposure with one of these guys, which we'll get into in a moment as well. But the main thing I want to impart on you is whatever frame rate it is, immediately go to your camera, set your shutter speed for double that number. So if we're always, like most of the time, shooting 24p, then your shutter speed is going to stay at 1/50th of a second. Now, from there, you're going to adjust your aperture to give you the appropriate exposure. So, for example, in this scene right here, you know, at ISO 100, f1.4, 1/50th of a second, it's exposed pretty nice. In this case, I could actually just increase my ISO if I wanted to get a little bit of a different exposure. So maybe ISO 160, I get a little bit more of a separation between that black table and that black background. That ends up looking pretty good. But there's going to be certain scenarios, like I'm at f1.4 because I'm in a dark studio right now. But if we were outdoors and it was a bright sunny day, like middle of the day, and you put your shutter speed at 1/50 and you put your f-stop to f1.4, it's going to be a mess. Like it's going to be so blown out. It's going to be like a light grenade just went off in your camera. It's not going to give you the correct exposure. So in those situations when you're shooting in broad daylight and you want to get that blurry background, you want to get that beautiful shallow depth of field like what you're seeing in this video right now, which is shot at f1.4, what you need to do is actually use what's called a neutral density filter. This actually happens to be what's called a variable neutral density filter. It's a mouthful. And hopefully you guys can see this, but as I rotate this, it gets darker and it gets brighter. So this variable ND filter is what you're going to use to control the exposure. So you could hopefully see, right? You see my eyeballs here. And as I close it down, it's actually cutting out some of that light. This specific one is a 2 to 5 stop variable ND filter. These things are not cheap. A good one will probably end up costing you somewhere in the ballpark of like $150 to $200. So what I recommend to people is look at the lenses that you have, see what the biggest basically filter thread is for your lenses, which for me is an 82, and get yourself an 82 millimeter variable ND. And then what you could do is they make these step down rings that basically you can take that bigger filter and attach it to some of your smaller lenses. Or if you're big money, you could just buy, one for every size of lens that you have, but it gets very expensive very quickly. You'll notice that with some of the higher end cinema cameras, like the one that I'm using right now, I'm actually filming, or what you're seeing right now is coming out of the Sony FX9, which is a cinema camera. And what's great about that camera is it actually has this variable ND filter built into the body of the camera. So if you ever wonder like, man, why are these like cinema cameras so expensive? Well, they've got these things built in. They have a lot of other things as well. This is one of the big selling points for cinema cameras. But with the Alpha line of cameras, it's really simple. You could just buy a variable ND. And now if you want to shoot at that f1.4 aperture, you basically will be able to keep your ISO at the lowest value. You could keep it at ISO 100 if it's daylight, and then just stick this filter, which you'll see basically how this darkens your footage. But you can see straight away, so this is without the ND filter, this is with it. And so you could see that I could actually just control my exposure now by just twisting that ring. And of course, I don't need it right now because it's dark in this studio, but for daylight shooting, which I think most people end up having the most, I don't know, challenges shooting video in daylight, this is going to be something, it's a must-have, it's a non-negotiable. Continuing on. So for me, when I'm shooting these videos, my focus settings, I'm usually in autofocus, continuous autofocus, because if I'm shooting a video of a person and I'm in the video or some other person's in the video, I don't want to have to keep moving the focus, right? These cameras are awesome nowadays. They have eye autofocus where, you know, if the person's moving around in the frame, just like, for example, the FX9 has eye autofocus. If I back away or I get closer to the camera or I move around, even at f1.4, I'm still sharp and I'm still in focus. The camera is actually continuously tracking as I move throughout the frame. This may not seem like a big deal, but I could tell you that as somebody who shot videos like from 20 years ago, I remember that if you wanted to shoot at f1.4, you had like a mark. Like let's say this is the frame. I'd have to sit in this exact spot to shoot at f1.4 because the focus was manual and it was fixed. If I did this, I'd be out of focus. If I did this, I'd be out of focus. If I start walking around, right? If I just get up and start walking around the room, I'll be out of focus. With these newer cameras with high autofocus, literally it's just tracking me. And the way that we're doing that is by making sure that we have the focus mode set to continuous autofocus. Then you want to make sure that your eye autofocus is on. Typically by default, your eye autofocus is already it's already enabled, it's already engaged. So that's something that you're really not going to have to mess with. But you know, if for some reason somebody messes with your camera and you know, they mess up your settings, you know, you can go in there, you can set up your human eye detect. You can have the camera decide whether it wants to focus on the left or the right eye. And then something that I like to do is to have that frame display so that it shows you which eye the camera is focusing on. So for example, I don't know if I'm going to show it here. You guys hopefully can see that it is focusing on my eye. And you can see as I'm moving around that it's just tracking. And you can visually see as you're shooting the video, hey, this is the, there it is. That's the eyeball that it's focusing on, right? So that's going to be pretty awesome. And right now, this is with the 35 G Master. So you could see shooting at f1.4, 50th of a second. If I was shooting a vlog, this exposure looks pretty good to me, you know, getting that really nice shallow depth of field. But you can see I'm like totally in focus. And if I back away or if I get really close, all of this looks pretty good. So there's the setup. We'll talk about these accessories here momentarily. But essentially that's it. You know, you're getting in there, you dial in these settings, you could have it on a tripod, deliver whatever it is that you're going to deliver to the camera, say what you're going to say, and make some magic. Questions?
Okay, thank you. That was a great overview. I think you answered Regina's question, is the shutter speed rule for photos the same for video? Because you did go into that. She says she keeps hers at 1/250th, but she noticed that you're at 150. So I think that was pretty clear in your answer. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, just to kind of reiterate the fact that whatever frame rate that you choose, right? So 9 times out of 10, you're going to be shooting in 24p because you want to shoot stuff in real time. So right away, the first thing I'm doing once I select 24p is that I'm going back to the camera, and if I'm at, let's say, 1/400, I'm just immediately going down to whatever double that number is, which is 1/50, and that number, that setting does not change for the entirety of my video shoot. The only thing that I will change if I want to adjust the exposure, because maybe I'm shooting during a bright day, is either to adjust my f-stop, right? So if I adjust my f-stop, I can make the video darker or make it brighter by opening up the aperture. Or if I'm in a certain scenario where I have a lot of light and maybe I don't want to shoot at f16 because I don't want to have everything in focus, you just use one of these variable NDs, and that is actually what you would use to control the exposure. You just twist the ring, and that will darken the video to give you the correct exposure.
Perfect. We do have users who are shooting for Instagram specifically, or kind of that's their first foray into video. And you mentioned if you want to shoot for Instagram, you're into 1:1, but the reality is that you can shoot in a different aspect ratio and still post the video to Instagram.
Correct. So you could even shoot those videos in a 3:2 aspect ratio. And if you know that it's going to go into like an Instagram reel or it's going to be a post on Instagram, then just make sure that you're composing your clip in such a way to where you give yourself that wiggle room. Because when you go into Premiere or Final Cut or whatever program it is that you're using, you can crop your video however you want. So it's not one of those things where you have to shoot it in that format in camera. It does make it a little bit easier, to be honest, if you're doing it in camera, because you know straight away, like, if it looks the way you want it to look. But to be honest with you, I shoot everything in 3:2. And then if I'm going to post something on other platforms, then I just recompose and I crop it a little bit differently to fit the frame for wherever it is that it's going to live.
Makes sense. You showed us your variable ND filter right there. Is there one that you use and recommend?
Yeah. So I have a couple of different variable NDs. This one is actually a really cool filter. I'm not going to recommend it, but I'm going to say I use it, and I'll tell you what it is. So this is a 2 to 5 stop variable ND mist filter. This is made by a company called Freewell. I have another one from a company called Moment, which makes amazing filters. This Freewell one was a little bit different because it's variable ND, and it has a feature that's called, it basically takes variable ND and a mist filter, which are two different types of filters, but they made this glass basically like a 2-in-1. And what the mist filter does is it blooms your highlights. So if you ever see a video, and actually this is a good example. Let me just show you an example of what this is. So you see those bulbs back there, and you see how the light is very kind of defined. You could see like a really nice sharp circle. But you notice, especially if you look at those top lights, when I add this variable ND, the lights kind of bloom out a little bit. So like it's almost like there's like a haze around each of the bulbs. And so it's kind of one of these little, cinematic things that you do to just kind of make your videos look a little bit more interesting. Sometimes it's really annoying, to be quite honest. So that's why I have just a standard variable ND filter. But I would look for brands like Moment. Freewell has some really good variable NDs. I have one from a company called Syrup, which I believe is SYRP. All of these are all high quality. There's a lot of them out there. I would recommend staying away from the cheaper ones. Like if you ever decide to go on, Amazon or something like that, you might see a variable ND for like $10. Don't waste your time. They are horrible. They will shift the colors. It's not going to look good. So.
And I'm sure you found that trial and error
Yeah.
in the very beginning, probably.
Many times
So
over. Many times over.
we do have some questions about gear. I know you're about to get into that. Before you go to lenses on the next section, though, can you talk a little bit about cameras specifically? And is the best camera for video the one you have? Or is there a specific camera you recommend for people who are just getting started in video? Obviously, everyone knows you shoot Sony, so we're going to be sticking to that discussion, and maybe talk a little bit about your camera setup specifically so people understand kind of what exactly it is that you're using. Doesn't mean they need to use the same thing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm kind of a camera junkie. I have a lot of different cameras for a lot of different situations. I'm very much of the school of thought that just like a handy person, like a handyman or a handy woman, when they come to do a job, they have a lot of different tools. They usually don't have just one screwdriver. They'll have like a whole box set of like 100 different screwdrivers, and that's what helps them to get the job done a little bit quicker. So for me, I have the Sony FX9. That's the top of the line as far as what I have here at my studio, which is what you're seeing right now. That's my baby. Most of my YouTube videos, I'm shooting with the FX9 as my primary camera. And then anytime you see like a secondary angle, or if you see any footage where the video is floating, maybe if it's on a gimbal or something like that, this is a big camera, so I'm not going to be able to put that on a gimbal. So in those situations, I use the Alpha 7S3. I also have the Alpha 1 that I use to shoot videos. But that's for like the professional work that I do. For social media videos, for let's say if I go out with family, just trying to like record family events and adventures and things like that, I have the ZV-1. And I have the Alpha 7C. So those actually, I might actually have here off screen. Yeah, so Alpha 7C is one that I use for shooting my home videos and things of that nature, and then also the ZV-1. So just depending on how small I want to go with my cameras, I have a different camera for every situation in every scenario. But for my professional use, FX9, Alpha 7S3, Alpha 1, that's my go-to.
Okay. Miguel, I saw you got a bit of a message there about the battery being near the end. The end is near. Okay. So Miguel, so I can hear Miguel. You guys cannot hear Miguel. Miguel is talking about how he's changing his battery. He has 3 batteries. I guess that's, one of the tips for today is always be prepared with batteries if you're shooting video. We've been at this quite a bit today before we started our workshop today. So
yeah,
Miguel,
and it's in 4K right now. Look at the size of this battery. The Whopper. And we killed it in, 2 hours. So.
Yeah. A couple of hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was telling everyone that we were live quite a bit before we started the workshop as well. That probably contributed to it. But yeah, always be prepared with your batteries. That's really important in video, or any photo shoot that you go to. So
absolutely.
Let's before we start going into the next section, just a couple.
What was that?
See, that happens. That happens all the time.
If it's the answer
Alexa,
to a question,
stop.
Good old Alexa.
Is there a particular guy? And I didn't even say the name, Miguel. I don't know what happened.
Alexa, what time is it?
I did not change the name of my machine to Miguel, so I don't know what happened. So is there, so some people have A6600s. There are a couple of questions about the A6600 specifically in here that I wanted to ask you. Can you, are S-Log and LUTs supported for the A6600, first and foremost?
Yes. So if you have, if you go into your camera menu and go to your picture profiles, if you see that you have, if you see that you have picture profiles, then for sure you can go into S-Log2, S-Log3. There's going to be a variety of different picture profiles. And the way that you would adjust those in post is by basically dropping a LUT onto that video file to get the colors to look correct. Here's something to note, though. You don't always have to use a LUT to correct the color of your footage. You know, it's one of those things where when you're just getting started, it makes it really quick and easy for you to just drop a LUT, and it normalizes your footage to what's called Rec 709, which is a color space for your video. But it's one of those things where, like, as you shoot video, just like you do with photos, you may not use a preset all the time. You might just look at the colors in your photo and be like, I want to tweak this a little bit, bring up the contrast this much, bring down the exposure this much. So you could shoot in these other picture profiles, and you could actually just manually adjust the colors to your taste. But generally speaking, people are in a rush. Video, you know, editing video is not the most fun thing in the world, for me at least, especially if you're a photographer. It's just something you have to do to get the video done. So in those types of situations, let's make it so easy, because you literally just drag and drop and your footage looks beautiful.
Perfect. Well, I think it's time we went to the next section. So let's get your thoughts on lenses and accessories.
Let's do it. All right. So let's catch up to where we were. All right. Lenses and accessories. So I'm going to give you kind of a breakdown of the lenses that I would recommend to you if you have a full frame camera. And then I'm going to talk to you about APS-C, because obviously these full frame lenses will work. They will work fine if you happen to have an APS-C camera, but obviously they work quite a bit better if you're on full frame. And there are some more kind of affordable options in the APS-C lineup. So, you know, I'm going to give you kind of a spread of different options here at different price points. So the first one, if you're shooting with a full frame camera, so I'm talking, you know, A7 IIIs, you know, Alpha 7S of any flavor, Alpha 7R, Alpha 9, any of these cameras, these are the lenses you're going to want to look at. 24-105 f4G is awesome. It's priced really well, relatively speaking. You get that 24 millimeters, which is wide enough, you know, for most scenarios, most situations that you find yourself in. So if, for example, if you wanted to have an image that looks similar to what you're seeing with me right now, like I'm shooting this at 24 millimeters, which you'd be able to get with this lens. But with that one lens, you're able to zoom into 105. So it's a really good lens for travel, you know, for any situations where you don't know what you're going to shoot. So you want to have the most flexibility. 24-105, you've got the wide, you've got the tight, great lens. 16-35 f2.8 G Master is wonderful for shooting video. You get that ultra wide angle. 35 millimeter is actually where I'm at with my Alpha 7S III. So if you saw that that angle off this camera here, that's at 35 millimeters. So you can get the wide, you can get a little bit of a tighter shot, but the image quality is amazing. And then being able to shoot at f2.8, you can bring it into low light environments, and you have that flexibility to shoot between 16 and 35 millimeters in low light. Now for me, I love, like if I could only have one of these lenses, which I need them all, but if I could only have one, the 24 1.4 G Master has been like my ride or die ever since it came out. Again, that's the lens that you're seeing me on in my this stream. I would say the majority of my YouTube videos that I filmed in the last year and a half, most of them have been with the 24 1.4 G Master. So if you go back through my YouTube channel, or you watch any of the Alpha Universe videos that have me in them, It was shot with the 24 1.4 G Master, almost 80 to 90% of the video. If you're shooting any type of B-roll, or you're trying to shoot anything where you want to shoot in low light, but you need a little bit more length, you don't want to get the wide, you want to shoot something a little bit tighter, the 85 1.8 is a wonderful lens. Gives you beautiful bokeh, just a small, light, compact lens, relatively affordable as well compared to some of the other ones that are on this list. For me, as somebody who does a lot of product reviews, gear reviews, I'm showing products very close up. Macro is essential. To that end, I have the Sony 90mm f2.8G macro. I use that a lot. So if you see my YouTube videos, any video clips that you're seeing close-ups of a product, 100% of the time, that's the lens that I'm using, because it gives you this super sharp quality of video. And honestly, there's very few lenses that I give a nickname to. And this is one of the lenses that's in my kit that has the nickname. So anybody who's ever helping me out, if I ever tell them, hey, I need Excalibur, they know which lens I'm talking about. It's the 90 f2.8G macro. It is insanely sharp for stills and really good for video as well. And then a recent addition to my lenses is this 20mm f1.8G. If I need something that's a little bit wider than the 20mm, maybe if I'm doing like a vlog or something like that, maybe 24 might be a little bit too tight for me to be able to talk to the camera in this type of fashion. So if I'm doing this at 24, I probably would have to extend my arms kind of far out, and that gets to be a little heavy. So if you go to something like the 20G, then you have the ability to kind of hold the camera a little bit more comfortably close to your body, but still kind of fill the frame with what you want to fill the frame with. Yep.
A couple of questions here before you move on to the APS-C section. Yeah. The question that always comes up, invariably, whether it's photography or video, primes or zooms. What are your favorites?
Okay, so if you are prioritizing image quality, then the easy answer is to shoot with primes, because primes are going to give you the best image quality that you're going to find in the lens. However, there are going to be situations where maybe, for example, like my 24G Master, there's certain scenarios where that focal length is not going to work for me. And maybe it'll work for 25% of the video, but maybe for some of it, I actually need to go a little bit wider. Maybe for some of it, I need to go a little bit tighter. And maybe it's during daytime where f4 is perfectly fine. So in that scenario, I use the 24 to 105. There's no like right or wrong answer to this, and it's somewhat difficult to answer because every day I'm prioritizing something different. So if I'm in the studio and I can control things, I have my lighting, I have everything at my disposal to control that final image, that I'm shooting it with a prime, like 100% of the time. However, if I go out on location and let's say I'm doing a photo shoot and we're doing a behind the scenes video, and we don't know what ultimately is going to happen, right? Because we're on location, it's like anything could happen. A UFO could land in the background. Like, we're going to want the 24 to 105, because you want to be able to get that wide angle view, but maybe you might want to compose your shots where, you get that close up of the person's face and they're posing and looking beautiful, or, or their hair is flowing, and you want to just kind of compose the shot where you have a tight shot and then you have the middle and you have a wide shot. 24 to 105, 16 to 35, these lenses will allow you to do that. So there's no right or wrong answer, essentially, is what I'm getting to. I am fortunate that I do this for a living. So for me, I buy the specific lenses that allow me to have the most flexibility. So in studio, I shoot prime. On location, I shoot with a zoom.
And I'm not going to force you to say if you could only afford one, which was one of the questions, what should you get? But I will mention how
24105. Just get that.
24105. Which I should mention is on a promotional offer right now. So go to the promo page on alphauniverse.com and you will see what's happening right there. And also the 24 millimeter GM that Miguel loves is on promo as well. So if you didn't know,
you can't go wrong with that. Yeah, that's. I mean, 24 to 105. If you handcuff me and tell me I can only get one, I could get everything done with the 24 105. But yeah, that 24 G Master, honestly, I use it all the time. So.
Okay, I concur, by the way, many of us do. So let's move on. Let's talk APS-C lenses now then.
Cool, let's do it. All right, so APS-C lenses, again, these are, if you have something like an A6000, A6100, any of the A6000 series of cameras, then there are APS-C lenses that are really great, really compact, that give you a lot of flexibility. So right out of the gates, for anyone who's asking, if I can only buy one APS-C lens, which one would I buy? The 16 to 55 f2.8 G series lens is the truth. It is fantastic. I'm like over the moon about this lens because it's not only great for shooting portraits, it's not only great for doing street stuff, landscapes, but it is really good for shooting video because you can get a pretty decent kind of like a wide angle shot, and then you could zoom in as well. Optical quality is fantastic, and it's a nice compact and small lens. So 16 to 55 f2.8 G is tops on my list. But if you're vlogging on one of these APS-C bodies, something like the 10 to 18 f4 is probably also going to be an essential, because keep in mind when you're shooting with these APS-C cameras, a 10 millimeter is actually going to be closer to 15 millimeters as far as what you would see from a full frame camera. That 16 millimeter is going to be closer to 24 millimeters. So all of these lenses, all of these focal lengths, you're going to multiply it by 1.5, and that's going to give you the equivalent of what you would see on a full frame camera. So if you want to get that wide shot, we were talking about being able to walk and if you're shooting a vlog and you want to see yourself and you want to see the entirety of what's behind you, the 10 to 18 is going to be the lens to do that. 16 to 55 is going to be a little bit tight, but as I mentioned, 24 millimeters, I use it all the time. You're seeing 24 millimeters right now. So on a tripod, it works perfectly fine, but you could see like I'm reaching out for my 24 and I'm nowhere close. I'm probably like a foot or so away. So like if I wanted to get this framing but holding this out as you would when you're vlogging, it's not possible. But if you're shooting with a tripod, you could totally get away with it. We're talking about the importance of macros if you want to show details in your videos. Sony has the 30 millimeter f3.5 macro, which is closer to a 45 millimeter focal length. Really good, really sharp. It's small, it's compact. That's one of the big, key points when you're looking at APS-C lenses, because the bodies are smaller. So if you're out and about, this is going to be one that you're going to want to take with you. 51.8 is going to be closer to a 75 millimeter focal length if you were on a full frame. So very similarly to the 85 1.8 full frame lens, that's going to be the lens that you use when you want to get that compression, if you want to get that really nice shallow depth of field, and you want to shoot a little bit closer and a little bit tighter. 51.8 is going to be good for that. Again, I love the 24 millimeter focal length, but on an APS-C, this is going to be closer to a 36 millimeter focal length, which is still really good. That's what you're seeing with this Alpha 7S3 that's here next to me that has a 35 millimeter lens. It's an f1.8. So if you're going to shoot in low light situations, that's going to be really great. This last one, the 70 to 350 f4.5 to 6.3 G. This is kind of that lens that you would use if you're traveling, if you're going out and you know that you're going to shoot video of things that are just very far away. In daylight situations, this lens is going to be great. It's a little bit niche, right? Because it's a longer focal length, very long. But if you're going out on like a safari, you're going out on some sort of a trip where you want to shoot stuff that's really far away, it's good to have a lens like this in your kit. Let's talk about other essentials that you will need when you are shooting video. So there's a few things, accessories, the portable tripod. You guys are actually seeing that portable tripod right here. This is a key piece of gear because I could actually start and stop my recordings here. I could take photos if I wanted to do selfies and things of that nature. If you're using a lens that has a power zoom, which some do, you could actually control your zoom in and out on the handle. And then, of course, it sits on the table very nicely. So if you're out and about, you set it on the table, talk to your camera. Beautiful little kit that Sony makes. The ND filter, we talked about it. Super important if you're shooting in daylight. You want to get that shallow depth of field. You must have a neutral density filter. I recommend the variable ND because you can adjust the amount of ND. You don't have to buy a bunch of different filters. Tripod is essential, right? The video that you're seeing right now, I'm on a tripod. Unless you have somebody that's really strong that can stand for a few hours and hold a camera, you're going to need that. And then a stabilizer of some sort, a gimbal, would be highly recommended if you want to get that beautiful cinematic motion in your videos. I have the Ronin S. However, they've replaced it with some other model at this point. I have a bunch of gimbals as well. That's one of those things that are like camera bags. Like once you start buying them, you go overboard. But get a decent gimbal because it is going to make your videos look a lot more professional. You have that nice smooth motion and you don't have that crazy shaky camera. Obviously, lighting, just like it is in photography, is very important. Ring lights, there's all different kinds of lights that are out there. I don't have any specific one that I'll recommend to you, but just check them out. And then audio is 50% of your what you're capturing when you're shooting video. So I use this Sony microphone with pretty much all my cameras. And the main reason for that is that it actually has, and I'll take this thing off, you'll see it's got all of these capsules, these little round holes. So what this microphone allows you to do is it allows you to capture audio from different parts of the microphone. Usually when you have these microphones, it's capturing audio directly in front. But on the back here, I could actually choose to capture audio where it's coming from this kind of pickup pattern in the front and to the side, or I could adjust it to make it a little bit wider where it's actually picking up the left and right as well as the front, or I could do 360 pickup. So let's say if I'm doing an interview of somebody, if I put it on this 360 pickup, the microphone will pick up the audio from the person in front of the camera, and it'll pick up the audio of me behind the camera if I'm asking him questions. So like if you're a reporter or something like that and you want to capture audio on both sides of the mic, you can just use this one mic. It mounts onto the multi-interface shoe, and you're pretty much ready to rock from there. You just have to make sure that you are setting the correct pickup pattern, because I have had that before where I'm picking up my audio from behind, and I don't want to be in the video. I don't want my audio or my breathing to get picked up. So you just have to make sure that you adjust that setting before you start recording. You're pretty much good to go from there. So we are at that fun final Q&A. So what question we have?
That was quite the marathon. Thank you. And I love that mic.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It is a lot, but it was very informative, hopefully. A couple more questions for you. One related specifically to video. We haven't talked about editing, obviously. That could be a master course all on its own. Lots to talk about there. Yeah. Very quickly, what is your editing setup so that people know what it is that you use for your videos?
Yes. So I use Premiere Pro to edit my videos. That for me, because I'm in the Adobe ecosystem with Lightroom and with Photoshop, I have the bundle that gives me the video stuff as well. So I have After Effects, but Premiere Pro is what I use for all my editing. If you're a Mac person, you can use Final Cut, you can use iMovie. I mean, you can even use Windows Movie Maker depending on the files. Like if you shoot the all intra modes, you're not going to be able to use Windows Movie Maker or iMovie. You're going to need a professional, what's called an NLE or non-linear editor, which basically is just Premiere and Final Cut. Avid, Resolve, those are all editing programs and suites that you can use. But for me, I use Premiere Pro for everything as far as video editing. It's really intuitive.
Very good. So those were all the questions. I do want to end on one question. Thank you, first of all, so much for being here and doing this.
My
overall, for a person who is starting in video right now, for someone who may be a photographer and starting a video practice, or for someone who is just starting out with anything cameras, what would be your advice, your number one advice for anyone starting out?
Number one advice as far as the equipment would be to get a ZV-1 and get this, get that vlogger bundle with the handle. The ZV-1 for me, honestly, has been like, this is still a camera that I use to shoot professional videos with. I shoot a lot of family videos with it. The quality is exceptional. You could still shoot 4K. You could actually do like really crazy slow motion clips. You know, it's probably my go-to for just like everyday type of shooting. And I think that if I didn't have all of the gear that I have, right, I would be perfectly fine producing YouTube content using this camera. You know, it's got a 24-70, very fast aperture, f1.8 to f2.8. You get a nice flip out screen as well. So if you want to shoot yourself, you know, you want to have that selfie mode, you could totally do that. This would be the camera that I would choose if I was just starting out, if I'm just trying to get into video, because it's small enough that I would take it with me everywhere. And it's a more kind of entry level type of investment, because you could buy this and you're ready to go, versus buying a camera where you have to buy a lens and you have to buy this and you have to buy that. Like this is pretty much out of the box. Just put the battery in, put the memory card, put the little grip on it, and start shooting.
Okay. Well, and it also does live very well. I'm coming to you live from a ZV-1 right now.
Yeah.
Very
you can live
for that as
from it. It's awesome.
Yes, and I would probably add and go with confidence. Be confident about what you do and enjoy the ride.
Oh yes.
I know you do enjoy it very much. So we talk about it a lot. So thank you again so much for doing this. This was incredibly informative. We hope that people got a lot out of it. I think we're going to do a replay of this on alphauniverse.com as well for people who have missed it. And I'm sure we will see you again soon, whether on our Alpha Universe YouTube channel or in a different workshop or at an event. Never enough Miguel Quiles. So thank you so much again for being here.
So happy to be here. Thank you all for joining, and hope you guys enjoyed it.